Tonight, I'm seated with Michael and Douglas, and they made the journey from LA to come join us tonight. So I want to thank you guys for joining us here, and I'm super excited to delve into your topic of slowing the fuck down and how
cannabis and breath can be incorporated in that practice. So before we get to chatting, I'd like to invite Michael to play a song.
I actually was born like 10 blocks down the street on Guitar, so I really didn't come that far. I'm just kidding, I live in LA now. So I'll just invite everybody to sit comfortably, lengthen your spine. If you'd like to, you can close the eyes, and while the flute is flowing, to just simply connect to your breath and start to slow that down.
Thank you, Michael. Now I'm going to do a 20-minute bagpipe performance. So Paxton, can you bring them out? That was beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. That was awesome.
My pleasure.
Yeah. I'd love to give proper introduction to both who you are individually and who you are when you come together in this practice that you'll be sharing about tonight.
I'll kick it off. Individually, I am Doug in Redondo Beach. I was an equity trader for a time, and then I had my first plant medicine experience. I realized pretty quickly after that I no longer wanted to be an equity trader. Moved across the country from New York to California and started my first community a couple years after that. It was Empathic Health, and a place for people interested in plant medicine to find other people interested in plant medicine and just have conversations that are difficult to have with healthcare providers, family, friends, and to have access to people that were also interested in these amazing healing plants and medicines. And that is a nonprofit that provides pro bono consultation for anyone that is looking to find their next step in the plant medicine space. Empathic.love is the URL if anyone wants to have one of those consultations. Jacob, congrats on the 2 pairings. That's a big deal, and it's very cool. So congratulations on that. I started Slow the F Down. I don't appreciate the curse word, Hannah. I love that people have to curse to say the name of my company. It brings me joy, which is the purpose of life. Founded Slow the Fuck Down to help busy people be able to reconnect and reimagine their relationship with time, because we all have these ambitions and goals and places we want to be and people we want to show up for in our personal life, our professional life, our family, our friends, and that can be hard and stressful and overwhelming. And that is, and often it can become a burden, and it takes the joy out of all of those activities and relationships that we like to be a part of and things we like to do. So Slow the Fuck Down is a community that provides practices for people to reimagine that relationship with time, to connect to their North Star, their highest self, orientate their compass, and be able to stick with those practices, the accountability of being in a community, so that you are able to show up for all of the things you want to show up for in your life, all of the people that you care about. And personally, it's my greatest accomplishment. I won the New Yorker cartoon caption contest twice and framed it on my wall. It is the greatest thing I've ever done. You can forget everything I said before that. That is the greatest thing I've ever done. And yeah, that's me. Twice.
Two-time champ. Right on.
It's coming.
My name is Michael. It feels so good to be back home. This place will forever be home. Like I said, I grew up on the east side of Santa Barbara and on the Mesa, and was birthed out of this beautiful woman back here with the dark brown hair. Hello, Mom. The stain is still actually on the hardwood floor, but I think they put carpet on it now. But anyways, I've been a mover my whole life, was always into athletics. My favorite subjects in school were recess and art. And I actually played football at Santa Barbara High, was the captain of the football team. That followed me down the route of moving to Los Angeles and continuing to play football and studying athletic training. And once that came to an end, I started working as a personal trainer at Equinox in Santa Monica, and was there for several years, did really well. Most professional trainer of the year a couple of years in a row, which I think my elementary school teachers would be very shocked by. That's one of my proudest moments. I'm just kidding. So I followed that thread, and I really just had this passion for movement and a passion for helping people reconnect to their bodies, because that was such a profound thing in my life. I started working with a trainer my freshman year in high school, and my life was forever changed in some really beautiful ways. And I went from having little to no confidence and being a bit chubby and not feeling so good in my body, which is such a terrible thing to feel. And after training that summer, I noticed like a 180-degree difference, and I was like, wow, if I can provide this for people, that kind of transformation, like my life would be complete. And so the opportunities that I've had to be able to do that over the years has been something like really, really special that I'm forever grateful for. And that kind of led me to deepening my yoga practice, which ultimately then led me to doing a 200-hour training in 2017. And I moved back to, well, that was in Spain, and I came back from that training and started teaching yoga immediately. And that was kind of like, I'd say, the first real like spiritual awakening that I had, was just being in yoga boot camp for 3 weeks in a country overseas, and getting to dive into not just the physical practice or what most people think about when it comes to yoga. You know, think about warrior twos, downward dogs, and that kind of stuff. It is so much deeper than that. And for me, that was such an eye-opening thing that I really, really connected with, and saw transformation happening in my own life. And so starting to teach yoga in LA was such a gift. And that's been one of my biggest passions, is to be able to serve people in that way, and also really through serving myself, really. And it was around 2018 too. I'd just gone through a breakup, actually in the midst of my yoga teacher training, came back from that. And a dear friend of mine, a dear sister who I worked with for some years, she offered to guide me through a first plant medicine ceremony. And I was open to it. And that was with San Pedro. And I had this really incredible experience of once I inhaled some mapacho for the first time, which I was always totally against tobacco. I had no idea about the sacredness of tobacco. And immediately I then had the experience off and on for the next several hours of being in my mother's womb again. And it tripped me out, because I had never had an experience like that before, out of body, but in my body. And I was able to feel every single thing and every emotion, sensation that my mom was feeling while I was inside of her. And getting emotional, which is great. And coming out of that ceremony, I knew that I needed to have a conversation with my mom about it. And at the time, I was really timid and was like, I'm gonna just tell her I had a really lucid dream. I've since told her the truth, but and it opened up the door to one of the most healing conversations that I've ever had with my mom, and getting to hear her side of my parents' relationship in a way that I had never heard it before. And immediately just raised so much tension. It just immediately dissolved any kind of resentment that I had towards my mom, towards my dad. And it was a really, really beautiful conversation that took place over the next few hours. And I had never felt so much love for my mom at that time. And it was so healing. It was so healing and so beautiful. And I'm forever grateful for that. And that really just opened up the door for that path of plant medicine and following that thread, because it felt so good and it felt so healing. And since then, I've just been so much more deeply connected with my mom and with my family. And it's been such a huge part in my path these past few years. And that's led to different studies, working with plant medicines and doing different dietas and traveling to the Amazon and spending time there in solitude, dieting for 31 days. And it's opened up some really beautiful doors in my life, and those threads come through while I'm teaching and working with people one-on-one or in a classroom setting. And it's also opened up the door with breathwork and pranayama practices. So really, really grateful to be here back in Santa Barbara and to be across from my mom and to be able to provide a little breathwork for everybody. I wasn't expecting that.
We haven't even started the breathwork yet.
It's good stuff. And what I feel from you both is your service now is what was pivotal for you. And I feel that's an emotional thing to share about, because it is your whole heart. It is the thing that changed your entire reality. And so I just want to acknowledge the courage that it is to be transparent in that conversation or to move across the country. And thank you so much for really following that calling so fully. And I look forward to being immersed in your breathwork guidance and transmission coming up here soon. So we're going to chat for a few more minutes, and then they're going to lead us through something amazing. I feel the potency already. And then you all will have the opportunity to share experiences or ask any questions before we close out at the end of the night. The next thing I'm wanting to inquire about is the practices in greater detail of what's involved in your method.
Yeah, great question. So we have what I like to call our signature event, and it's the full moon gathering, full moon celebration. So we actually have one coming up on Saturday. This past evening was the harvest moon. So we put them on the weekends to help people be able to attend, generally around when the moon happens. And we have themes and journal prompts about the themes that help us reflect on the month we just came from and the month that we are headed toward. And we'll start those events off. They've been totally virtual to date. We're doing our first in-person one Saturday, which is awesome. Very excited. And we're also doing it virtually for anyone that wants to attend. So we start out with some community announcements from me. So I'll put on my other turtle hats. I like to wear many different hats. I'll say goofy things and update people on the community and what's going on, and hand out some milestone achievements for people that have attended a certain number of events, fun things like that. Then I'll hand the Palo Santo torch over to Mychal. He will lead us in a intentional cannabis grounding. And that will, for anyone that's interested in doing so, it's totally optional. That will drop us in with that medicine. We'll then have the opportunity to share intentions for the rest of the evening. After that, Mychal will lead us through yoga, and then dear brother Jonathan from Arizona, who will be in LA Saturday, will lead us through breathwork. And then we come together at the end, again, optionally for anyone that wants to share about their experience. We'll be doing something similar logistically here with some journal prompts before we jump into the breathwork, or not jump, that wouldn't be too slow, before we walk into the breathwork, and some prompts after to reflect on the experience. So that's the general theme that we're going for with the events. We also have bi-weekly resource sharing sessions that Michael leads, where we'll dive deeper into one of the themes from the most recent moon, and we'll see how that shows up in our life. And it's just an awesome opportunity for community members to share a book that they read, or this new tool that they're using that has been super helpful, a new app that has helped them, whatever it might be. So it's an opportunity for that. And then we have weekly breathwork sessions with Jonathan. That's like a 60-minute, more of a quick hit to fit in your schedule, but keep that, it's almost like a microdosing of breathwork to keep that rhythm and keep seeing the same faces at events. And yeah, that's really the outlay of our community.
Very cool. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I'd love to hear from both of you about how cannabis, if relevant, fits into your own healing and spiritual practice.
You can definitely start that.
Yeah, for sure. So, cannabis was something that I got introduced to early on. I'm sorry. When I was too little. And my relationship with cannabis was probably like the majority of people's relationship with cannabis, especially at a young age. It was something, I looked at it like a drug, or something that I had to hide, something I felt shameful about at times. And it was something that I more used to check out so that I didn't have to feel the things that I didn't want to feel that were causing me any stress or dis-ease. And my relationship with it fluctuated throughout high school, throughout college. There were years that I went without using it, and then there were also years that I went using it and smoking daily and still functioning very great. And it wasn't until I'd say it was October of 2021 where I got the opportunity to do a dieta for 7 days up in Santa Cruz, and got to connect with cannabis, or what's also called Santa Maria, in a really beautiful way. And part of that dieta, there were creation stories being told from the Yawanawa tribe. And there was also the opportunity to harvest some of these flowers that had been growing for the past months. And it, for me, was the first time that I really got to connect with cannabis in such an intentional way, where I drink a little bit of ayahuasca and go sit by the plants and talk to them and tell my story about my relationship with them. And I really got to feel just the full force and the spirit of the cannabis, and feeling that it's always been here for me no matter how I showed up. It never judged me, not one bit. It was always there for me. And what was different was how I was showing up with it, where before it was very unintentional, or maybe the intention was to just check out. And of the last two ceremonies that we did, there was an opportunity to really intentionally smoke during the ceremony after the second cup was served, about an hour after that. And for me, that was something that I wanted to experience. And getting to experience cannabis in a ceremonial kind of way, in a teepee underneath the stars, and doing so with just so much gratitude in my heart. And after feeling the force of the medicine, the ayahuasca, then getting to intentionally smoke and inhale and feel that force like I had never felt it before. And it was one of the most beautiful sensations that I had ever felt. It was like, I know some people talk about a Kundalini rising that can happen through Kundalini yoga. And for me, that was what I experienced, but in such a beautiful way. And I was just so ecstatic. I was feeling so good and so happy and just such in bliss. And it was such a beautiful experience to get to connect with it in that way and to really feel it on such a deep level. And from that moment on, my relationship with it changed. And I made it a point to, any time that I were to ever engage with cannabis again, I'm going to do so in prayer, and I'm going to implement elements of ceremony in it. And same thing when I talk about it with people. And after that, I wasn't ashamed to talk about it. I wasn't ashamed to tell people that I smoked or anything like that. That just all dissolved. And one of my one of the things that would bring me so much joy sometimes when I had the space, especially on weekends, I would smoke a little bit and then I'd roll onto my yoga mat and I would just move in my body for a few hours and do some yin and just get to feel my body in a whole different way. And it was so healing for me, and beautiful insights would come through. My body would feel so nourished. And so for me, getting to connect with Doug about all of this and talk about how we want to create these experiences, it was something that for me was like a F yes, because I feel like that's a huge component that is missing when it comes to cannabis, is actually treating it like a plant medicine, the plant medicine that it actually is, because our society has like so bashed it and turned it into something bad that most people that you talk to will like look at you some kind of way just because you're smoking or because you do smoke cannabis, and it's looked down upon and it's frowned upon. And I think that really has to do with just the way that, you know, society has treated it and the way that society has butchered that plant, in the same way that society has butchered tobacco, in the same way that they butchered the coca leaf as well. And they've taken the reverence and the sacredness out of it. But really, when you look back at how some of these plants have been used in indigenous cultures and traditions, it's been for healing and for growth and for transformation. And so that's really a big part of why we offer the drop-in with cannabis, is so that people can one, have the experience of treating it truly like a plant medicine and bringing those elements of ceremony into the experience, and to do it in a really intentional way, because most people, when they're smoking, they're going out and they're doing this and that, sometimes even mixing it with alcohol, which is a terrible idea. And so, yeah, just the opportunity to connect with it in a really sacred way, and hopefully, you know, shift some people's perspectives and relationships with it without forcing.
When I was growing up, high school, when my friend Dylan's parents would leave for the weekend, we would go make pot brownies at his house. And we would get whatever bag of twigs that my friend Matt's brother's cousin's friend could gather for us. And that was my relationship with cannabis until pretty recently. Now, my relationship with cannabis, Michael very generously gifted me some of that cannabis that is local, and it is the only thing I use now. And I more or less exclusively only commune with cannabis in our events. When I do something like our events for myself, I call it therapy night. It's more or less the same thing: cannabis, yoga, breathwork. Sometimes it's just cannabis and breathwork. Sometimes it's just cannabis and yoga. Sometimes it's just cannabis. Sometimes it's just yoga or breathwork. The combination of these things in any capacity, you really can't go wrong. And I feel that most of society is still in that brownie twig understanding of cannabis. And it is incredible to see what it can do when utilized intentionally. And to be able to provide that for people is really cool. To hear their experiences and is also very cool. And I think cannabis, much like the universe, and it is a plant medicine of the universe, will bring into your life what you are seeking. So if you have that intentionality and you're communing with it as opposed to using it, that's what's going to come up. So if you're smoking to get fucked up, it'll probably do that for you. And if you're communing to have a therapy night, it'll probably do that for you too. So it's been cool to experience both sides of that coin, and I like the latter one more.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a great reflector. Like when you do smoke, or, you know, take it however you take it, it will bring up what is fully present. I always giggle a little bit when people say, oh, I can't smoke, you know, it makes me paranoid, or I get too anxious. It's not the cannabis that's making you paranoid or anxious. You're probably already paranoid or anxious, and it's just bringing that to the surface for you to hopefully have space to take a look at, so that you can work with that, move through that, and from there grow and transform.
Yeah.
That's what I always tell people when they say, can I do it without the cannabis? Like, absolutely. You know, yoga and breath work on its own is still very valuable. The cannabis just is a reflector. It multiplies the experience. So if it's going to be a pleasurable experience, feeling into the body, breathing into your body, giving your body oxygen, it'll multiply that. If it's going to be a less desirable experience, it may multiply that too.
Totally. I would call that something like a ceremony consciousness, or the framework that people would utilize in other plant medicine experiences. And I totally agree and resonate, and I've said the same thing to people around exploring microdosing psilocybin as well. And it's so interesting, the tendency to project onto the plant. Oh no, it's that thing, and therefore I don't do it. And so I really appreciate the alternative perspective and simply the inquiry, even if someone isn't no to the cannabis, just inviting the like, what's under the surface of that, like what isn't wanting to be felt. And even if that's still the choice, just understanding the layers of it. So I think that's super cool. I've been on a healing journey with cannabis myself and used to use it for disassociation and not feeling, and was successful in that for a very long time. And I recognized the spiritual ego that I developed in the spaciousness away from calling on that plant medicine, and the non-forgiveness I had for the younger version of myself that was disassociative and even disrespectful. And so it's been really lovely to reintegrate that. And in bath time, I really appreciate a little cannabis-assisted bath. And also yoga and breath is really juicy and amazing. So I love that you all are bringing this to community. Thank you for bringing it to our community in the spectrum that you're offering it tonight. And I'm feeling that transition coming around the corner. Is there anything else that you want to share or set context before the breath? I'm going to join the audience. I'll be back.
Sweet.
Thank you for the interview. Before these questions, like we did at the beginning, if you want to sit with a straight spine, maybe gently close your eyes and just feel into your breath and feel the breath coming in and the breath going out. And then when you're ready, next to the beautiful number 1 on your page, I want to know, what was going on in your life that brought you here today? Question number 2, when you're ready, what is your biggest devotion in life right now? So question number 1 was, what was going on in your life that brought you here today? And question number 2, what is your biggest devotion in life right now? And then our last question before we begin, why is this devotion so important to you?
And once you feel complete with that, you can place the pen on your side or maybe on the floor, or same with the paper. You want to keep it in your pocket, feel free to do so. And then before we drop into breathing, just I'll ask a few questions and also just want to share a little bit about what we'll be doing. So, I've got a question for you. How many of you have never done any kind of ecstatic, holotropic, Wim Hof style breath work? Have not. Okay, you have once in Costa Rica. That's right. Okay, cool. So what we're going to be doing is breathing in a way that is upregulating to the nervous system, and done so with intention to do so, to activate and to stimulate. And so we're going to be breathing in deeply, We're going to be exhaling out very relaxed. And what we're going to transition to once we begin is a 3-part breath. And the breath is going to happen all in and out of the mouth. And so we're going to breathe into the belly with the first breath, and you'll expand the belly like so. The second inhale, we're going to expand up into the chest. And then the exhale without much effort. So if you want to try, you can place, especially if you're new, place your hand on the belly, a hand over the heart. And together we'll take an inhale into the belly, up into the chest, and then exhale. Let's try that again. Belly, chest, exhale. One more time. Belly, chest, exhale. Great. So if you'd like to, you can keep the hands on the body while we breathe in that way, just to give your brain feedback as to where you're breathing into. You don't have to, though. Some things that, so first, some contraindications. If you're pregnant or have various kind of heart conditions or issues, what you can do is just breathe in and out softly. Right, because you don't want to overstimulate things. Some things that can also happen are body temperature changes. You might get a little bit hot, you might get a little bit cold, maybe a little bit of both. Also, what can happen too are tingly sensations, maybe in the face, the jaw, the neck, the hands, the feet, anywhere in the body, it can happen. So just know that if that is happening, that's completely normal. Another thing that can happen is a little bit of cramping, specifically in the hands, what's known as tetany, or some people call it lobster claws. It might look like you're throwing up gang signs, so just be careful out here. No, just kidding. All right. So just know that that's completely normal as well. And that over time, and not like hours from now, but a few minutes afterwards, that'll slowly dissolve. So if that's happening, just know that that's completely normal. And you're in control of your breath the entire time. So if you feel like you want a little more stimulation, you breathe in with a little bit more force. And if you want to let your foot off of the gas pedal a little bit, you just breathe in a little bit slower and a little bit softer. And the important thing here is consistency. So staying consistent with the breath rather than the depth, right? And if you're experienced and you want to breathe a little bit deeper, feel free to do so. I'll be cueing and setting the tempo. And then from there, it's really a practice of concentration and endurance, mostly endurance in the mind, because the mind, or the world is very full of distractions, and I think it's a really clear sign that, you know, the attention span of a lot of people in society at whole is dwindling. And so with those so many distractions, you might find that when you're breathing, your mind starts to wander off to something else. Use that as a meditative cue to bring your awareness back onto your breath and just follow along and jump right back in. So if you notice the mind wandering, cute mind, let's bring it right back onto your breath, staying consistent. So it takes some focus, it takes some concentration of the mind, and also a little bit of the lungs as well. Cool. I think that's about it. And for this one, we're obviously going to do it seated. And what I would recommend is just sitting up with a nice tall spine. Of course, you could lay your back on the back of the chair, but I would recommend just erecting the spine perpendicular to the floor. And it looks like we'll get probably more of a microdose with this, but we'll get a few rounds in. And the last thing that I'll say too here is that we'll come into, after each kind of round, we'll come into a breath retention. And we're going to retain the breath on empty. So I'll cue to take the last breath in, and then I'll cue to get fully empty, and then we're going to hold out on empty. And of course, if you'd like to and you feel like you need to breathe in sooner than I cue, please feel free to do so. Otherwise, I'll cue when to take a big breath back in, and then we'll hold at the top for about 15 seconds. And then we'll go back into a regular breath, and then we'll drop back into the 3-part breath. Cool. Any questions? Boom. All right. Sweet. And for this, if you'd like to, you can keep the eyes closed. And if you are choosing to keep the eyes open, if that feels better, if that feels safer, I would recommend finding one fixed point, maybe somewhere on the wall here, and locking in with that. It's called a drishti, a focal point. All right. So together, let's start off by taking a full breath in through the nose and empty out of the mouth. And we'll do that one more time. Take a full breath in and a full breath out. And now count to about 4 to 5 seconds on the inhale through the nose, and then out of the nose for about 4 to 5 seconds. And we'll continue breathing like that to start off. And then if it is available, breathe in for about 5 or 6 seconds, and then breathe out for about 5 or 6 seconds. And we'll take a few rounds of breath here. This is known as coherence breathing or resonance breathing. And it's worked wonders for treating anxiety and depression. Even as little as 5 minutes a day can make such a huge impact. And so while you're breathing like this for a few more moments, I want you to connect back to that devotion, that dream, that goal, that aspiration, maybe even that reason why you showed up tonight, and why you continue to choose to show up for yourself. And together, let's go ahead and take one more inhale and one more exhale. And we're going to start off really slow. You can take another breath in. Take another breath out. Again, inhaling and exhaling. And then you can join me. We'll start off slow. So go belly, chest, release. Belly, chest, release. Belly, chest, release. That tempo. Belly, chest, release. Belly, chest, release. In, up, out. In, up, out. Keeping that tempo. Belly, chest, release. Stick with it. Keep it going. Expand the belly, expand the chest, let it go. You got it. Keep it going. And if you have the capacity, see what it would feel like to breathe in about 5% deeper on those inhales. We'll take about 5 more. Last 4. Belly, chest, release. Last 3. Last 2 cycles. Last full cycle. Belly, chest, release. And then take a big inhale. And then a long exhale out. Get fully empty of breath and then hold out on empty. And as you hold out here, reciting to yourself, I'm safe in my body. I'm safe in my body. Be a light contraction of the pelvic floor. And in 3, 2, 1, take a big inhale. Get full and hold the inhale. And in 3, 2, 1, let it go. Take another big breath in. Big breath out. Take a few more cycles of breath just like that. And with this next round, we'll pick up the tempo just a tiny bit. We'll take it from first gear to second gear. And you can match my breath like this. Inhale, inhale, exhale. There you go. Belly, chest, let it go. Belly, chest, release. Belly, chest, let it go. Stick with that tempo. In, up, out. In, up, out. Stay focused with your breath. In, up, out. In, up, release. Keep it going, keep it flowing. Belly, chest, release. A little mental endurance as well as some physical endurance. Belly, chest, release. You got it. Keep it going. Belly, chest, release. Keep it going. Breathe for that devotion that you connected to. Maybe breathing for that person next to you that you came with. In, up, out. In, up, out. And let the focus with your breath be an act of devotion to yourself, an act of self-love. Belly, chest, release. Belly, chest, release. We're here for a little bit less than a minute. Belly, chest, release. And if you can, maybe breathing in with a little more depth for these last few cycles. We'll go for 4 more. Belly, chest, release. Last 3. Belly, chest, release. Belly, chest, release. Last cycle. Belly, chest, release. And then take a big inhale. And then exhale fully. Get completely empty of breath and hold out on the exhale. And what you can do here too, again, is a little contraction of the pelvic floor. Maybe drawing the navel, the belly button deeper into the spine, and then lightly elevating that up into the rib cage. I'm safe in my body. I'm held by Mother Earth. I'm full of willpower and courage. I am loving awareness. And in 3, 2, 1, take a big inhale. Hold it at the top. If you have room, take another quick sip. Hold, retain. Maybe a light contraction of the pelvic floor, the perineum. And in 3, 2, 1, let it go. A deep breath in. A deep breath out. Reconnecting to that devotion, that reason that brought you here. Continue breathing with depth and really tapping into and utilizing the full range of motion of your diaphragm. The diaphragm is our breathing muscle, an umbrella-shaped muscle that lies underneath the rib cage. And most of us don't utilize that full range of motion. And when we can tap into that, we tap into the power, the life force, the vitality of our breath. Round number 3 of 4. Take another big breath in. Another big breath out. And then when you're ready, you'll drop in at my tempo like this. Belly, chest, release. Belly, chest, release. In, up, out. In, up, out. Keep that tempo going. Belly, chest, release. Expand, expand, release. An opportunity here to play big. Keep it going, keep it flowing. To bring you love in a warm embrace. Belly, chest, release. Belly, chest, release. Stay focused on your breath. In, up, out. Ah, la, la. It comes from this place. Stick with it. And again, if you have the capacity to breathe in with a little more depth, see what that would feel like. Breathe in about 5% deeper on those inhales and let those exhales spill out without any effort. Belly, chest, release. We got about 1 more minute here. Think of this like the sprint through the finish line. Breathe for that devotion. Breathe for yourself. In, up, out. In, up, out. About 8 more rounds. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Last one. Then take a big breath in and hold it at the top for a moment. 3, 2, 1. Exhale, fully empty of breath, and hold out on empty. And we're going to hold this one for just a little bit longer than the last 2. I am safe in my body. And in 4, 3, 2, 1, take a big inhale and hold it at the top. Hold it at the top. If you have room, take a sip. Top it off. Hold. And in 3, 2, 1, let it go. Take a big breath in. And a big breath out. Drop back into that coherence breathing, breathing in for about 5 seconds, breathing out for about 5 seconds. And this will be the last round that we move through here. This tempo will be a little bit faster than the last. And at a certain point, a few minutes into this song, we're going to come into an audible release. And we're going to release with sound through your mouth. And I'll cue when that time is to come. And the invitation here is to give voice, to give sound to whatever is bottled up inside of you, giving it a vessel to be released out of your being, out of your body. Anything that you may have been holding on to, maybe for the past week, maybe it's for a lifetime, maybe it's for lifetimes, giving that voice and leaning into it. And wherever you're at, let's go ahead and take a full breath in. And a full breath out. Another big inhale. Exhale with a little sound. Again, another big breath in. With a sigh, let it go. Inhale. And exhale. A few more like that. Keep breathing in deeply. Exhale with a sigh. This will be the last round. So anything that's still left in the tank, like they used to say back on the football field, leave it all on the field. I'll cue in a moment when we get started off with this breath. You can catch my tempo. And then tune in and cultivate that focus and that concentration, that willpower and that courage inside of your being that you know you have. And when you're ready, breathe with me. Belly, chest, release. Belly, chest, release. Belly, chest, release. Keep it going at that tempo. And know that you are in control of your breath. You get to dictate the tempo. You get to dictate how deeply you're breathing in or how soft you're breathing in. You are in control. Belly, chest, release. Belly, chest, release. And again, if it helps, you can always place the hands on the body. Belly, chest, release. Belly, chest, release. Keep it going. Sounds so beautiful. Keep it going. And again, if you have the capacity to breathe in with a little more depth, the invitation is there. Belly, chest, release. Belly, chest, release. Belly, chest, release. Keep it going. Think of this like the sprint through the finish line. You got it. Keep cultivating that willpower, that focus, that concentration within you. Show yourself how capable you are through your breath. Lean into one of the most vital life forces that we can tap into, the power of breathing. Belly, chest, release. Belly, chest, release. Belly, chest, release. You got it. Keep it going. We got about a minute left with this tempo. In, up, out. In, up, out. Remember why you showed up tonight. Eight, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, one more. Then take a big inhale, hold it at the top. And then with a sigh, let it spill out. Take another big inhale, hold this one at the top. Take a quick sip, hold and retain. In a moment, I'll cue, and I want you to come into, well, I don't want you to do anything, but feel into what feels good. But the invitation is to come into a hysterical laugh. In 5, lean into it. 4, 3, especially if you're timid. 2, 1. Like the most funniest thing that you've ever seen and experienced in your life. Channel your inner Joker here. We're going for about 15 more seconds. Lean into it. If it feels weird, good. Lean into it. Lean into it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe with me. In, up, out. In, up, out. Last minute. In, up, out. In, up, out. Belly, chest, release. Keep it going at that tempo. You got it. 5, 4, 3, 2. Last one. And then take a big inhale. Hold it at the top. And in 3, 2, 1, fully empty your breath. This will be the last retention that we have. So get empty and then hold out on empty. If you're familiar with the bandhas, the locks in the body, feel free to engage those. The root lock, slight contraction at the pelvic floor. The abdominal lock, drawing the belly all the way back to the spine and a slight elevation into the diaphragm, into the rib cage. Maybe dropping the chin into the chest. I'm safe in my body. We're here for just a few more moments. Last 10 seconds. And in 3, 2, 1, take a big inhale. Hold it at the top. If there's room, take a quick sip. Top it off and hold. And in 3, 2, 1, empty out. And take a nice full breath in through the nose. A gentle sigh. Drop back into the coherence breathing. tuning into that devotion. Staying connected to your breath. Bringing your awareness into your physical body as you continue connecting and deepening your breathing. Maybe some gentle movement in the limbs, the fingers, the head, the neck, the spine. And whenever you feel ready, opening the eyes, coming back into the space. Thank you for breathing with me. If there's any questions that anybody has, or if you do want to share a little bit in regards to maybe some things that came up while you're breathing, feel free to as well. But yeah, also if you have any questions.
Awesome. I thought that it was really great, the music, and it was like a nice anchor at first for the aspect of myself that wanted to be anchored. And eventually, like maybe after the second round, after the holds, I was like really feeling the release and like the send. And then there was like, it's so weird whenever I do breath work in this space, there's like this professionalism aspect of myself that's like, no, stay here. And so I finally was like able to see that with enough space to choose to not do that the next time. And then it got a little bit like crazier and like loss of context, sort of, in the best way, in the most beneficial way. And I felt like, yeah, really grateful that there was another opportunity to let go into that. And in the brief moment that you weren't cueing, I literally wasn't breathing. And it was so interesting to see that, like how quickly it can be lost just as quickly as it can be found again. And so that was just an interesting like process to track within myself. And I definitely don't feel like sleepy tired as I was at the start of the evening. I'm feeling a lot more invigorated. Just wanted to share that process.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing. I feel a similar sense as a presenter, that mix of professionalism and and going deep. And funny enough, I inadvertently had a cannabis-infused drink before. I didn't realize it was cannabis until I was like 3/4 of the way done. I was like, oh, like, all right, that's what's happening tonight. So that added like a even deeper twist to the experience. It reflected the confidence I felt in what we're doing and how I'm doing the breath work, and the freedom to joke or laugh very loudly. It's not something that I am usually comfortable with, and having that, touching that comfort zone and feeling safe to do so is everything, and so helpful. So I feel a lot of your share in my experience too.
I just really thank you for the experience. It was really nurturing and it was very deep for me. I've done a lot of breath work, yoga. I love the breath, and I haven't done this kind of breath work for a long time, and so I was a little bit like, how am I going to be able to sit here and do breath work? And I could feel pretty sudden, like my body tingled and I got hot, you know. But I really appreciated hearing your breath. I also really liked the music and the guidance, and I felt really nicely guided and held. It was like in good increments. So I had some really nice insights of like, yes, that would be really good to breathe more like this for me. Personally, right now in my life, I'm not into psychedelics or exploring that, and so it's very interesting to like be in a psychedelic social club and feel like, oh, I'm not really into exploring that, but very much so with the breath. I feel like it's totally psychedelic, and so I don't know if because I'm into purification or I have stuff around. My brother was an addict and stuff, you know. And so what brings me joy is that I can feel this free and oneness simply by breathing, very sudden, very fast. Like I feel in warm water, I feel like it's all there. And I just think that's beautiful. And I feel really grateful that you've incorporated that in your club. So it's like you're doing that, you're doing breath work, and it's all okay. And so I'm happy to do that.
That is beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, thank you. And that's, you know, if anybody's familiar with holotropic breathing or not familiar with holotropic breathing, Stan and Christina Groff out of Esalen, they kind of in some ways recreated this style of breathing, this more upregulating style of breathing. I mean, monks have been doing it for a really long time, more so called Tumo breathing, which is where Wim Hof got that breath and kind of repackaged it. But the holotropic breathing was actually birthed, I think it was in the 60s or early 70s, and it was around the time of that first kind of like psychedelic revolution back with Timothy Leary and Ram Dass before he was Ram Dass, and when those substances like LSD and psilocybin were becoming criminalized and taking that away from people, and they figured out that if we breathe in this kind of way for a certain amount of time, musically driven, it can actually elicit the same response in the brain as certain psychedelic experiences. And so it's a really incredible and so much more accessible to people. I feel like the mass population is so much more accessible and safer in some ways, at least in some people's mind, a safer way to access that and to work through things, to process things, to eradicate things, to release things. to heal from things, whether it's, from, prenatal, postnatal, or even while giving birth, or past life stuff. It's really incredible. And so this style of breathing was really kind of birthed because, in some ways, of psychedelics, and to give people an opportunity to have that same kind of experience, but just through the power of breathing.
Thank you so much. One of the values here is definitely consciousness expansion, and I think the common thread of all those things are non-ordinary states of consciousness. So anybody here that has modalities that they want to see more of, we'd love to be a container for that. So I appreciate the share.
Maybe one more.
Sure. I've done some of the 5-MeO and MDMA and some journeys such as that, and I felt a little like when I was doing the breathwork alone, it kind of, when you do that and you accept that medicine and you have a journey, you really do have to trust who's providing it to you and let yourself go and have your heart be open. And I have had a lot of trauma to work through, so it's interesting because that breath work, I prefer the breath because it's started to elicit things just as the medications, did when I was doing the journeys. And it was interesting because anytime you change the tempo or the feel of the music, I could feel myself starting to go, oh, my brain's going in that direction. Like, it was very, very interesting. I really appreciate the experience. I came because my daughter invited me, and we weren't supposed to say that, but she did, and I'm always open, to some new experiences, but this felt very safe. But I was very surprised at having not, inhaled something or drank something, how quickly and beautifully, maybe with a little more time and space with it, how it can open up so much feeling. It's really beautiful. So thank you.
Very beautiful. Yeah, thank you for sharing. That's how I feel almost every time I have an experience like this. When I get to that place and the consistency with which I'm able to visit it and explore it and make it my space, because that's what I believe it is. It's like my truest, highest self, and feeling that and being connected with that. And the more that I'm able to play in that space and reclaim it and make it mine and feel into that and explore the boundaries of it is so helpful in my day-to-day life to come back. And yeah, it can be as simple as just breathing, and it's crazy and it's true, and we can experience it and feel it and know that that's true. So like you said,
the laughter was really helpful because I was like, I just want to cry again for another 6 hours. But the laughter was just like, it's a conscious choice to make it a joyful experience. And the breathing helped me not go into the sad things. It was really neat. I really had a good time. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for dragging along.
The vocal releases are incredible. I tell Michael after every time, I'm like, yeah, more noise. And what's great about the at-home bit is we turn everyone's microphone on Zoom on mute, so you can scream as loud as you want and not worry about, am I affecting someone else's experience? They won't be able to hear Michael. You're able to get the benefit, and you can just roll over to bed when you're done, or leave. You don't have to drive home after. So there's awesome benefits, and you still get the group feeling of being with everyone, like the energy you most likely felt being in this space with everyone. So it's great to do from home too. There's a lot of benefits.
You talked about your day-to-day life. So is there for us busy folk, are there protocols that you recommend for X times a week for X minutes or hours per session? Do we have like a microdose protocol equivalent that you can share?
Yeah, I think, and just like with most things, it's really personal. What's one person's medicine is somebody else's poison, but the good thing with the breath is you're not taking anything, you're just breathing. And so what I would consider that what we just experienced more on the macro dose kind of side, but that's something that you can, I would definitely recommend. Maybe it's like once a month, or and as you get more experience with it, maybe it's a few times a month, or maybe it's once every season, and I really just kind of playing with like how good it feels to breathe in that kind of way, sustained way for that duration, how good that feels for one person over time. And there's microdoses that you can also do. Like you can do that for one round. You can do that for like 3 minutes. You can do it for just like 30 breaths. You can do it for 50 breaths. Doing it in the morning is, I really like doing it in the morning and kind of starting off my day that way and feeling much more clear as I'm heading into the day. Also something you can do at night too. And I think that complements a meditation practice really nice, because once you're in that state, you're already, afterwards, you're a bit calm. And from there, it's nice to go into a meditation. And so doing like, I think like microdoses of that, doing that, maybe it's, 5 times a week. And as far as like the larger doses, maybe it's multiple times a month, maybe it's once a month. But I think like really, I think the only person who can really tell you that answer with 100% truth is yourself, and by trying it on and seeing what feels good and what doesn't.
Totally agree. And yeah, like personally for me, I'll do a 10 to 15 minute upregulated breath work right before I start my workday, and that really like zones me in. And then I have the Thursday sessions that are like 30 minutes of breath work, 30 minutes of group sharing, our monthly full moons. And every week or two, I'll do one of my therapy nights where I personally do cannabis, yoga, breath work. And I want to recommend the app to everyone called Othership. It's like Mothership without the M. It's a on-demand breathwork app, and they have like hundreds of different breath works, everything from 2 minutes to 75, upregulated, downregulated. So you can put in like, I want a breath work for sleep, and it'll be more like exhale dominant to help you get to sleep. Or before work, like I need a pick me up, or there's a meeting coming up, I only have 2 minutes, let me do something quick that just zones me in. And they got it all. It's awesome. I get a free month for people I refer to it. So if you're interested, let me know. I love it. I use it every day. It's great. They interviewed me because I was in their top 10 users. So I'm like, damn, that's awesome. I'm doing it right.
Can you say the app again?
Othership. It's like Mothership, no M. Yeah.
There's another great app too called Open. It's the opposite of closed. Really simple. It's a studio. It's also, it first started off as an app, but it's also, there's a brick and mortar. It's a studio. I teach there in Venice, but the app, there's a timer for meditation, but there's also like a breath work count too that you can set for like 10 minutes, and it's circular breathing, and you just follow along with that. So that's really, really simple as well too. So yeah, if you're curious about other resources with those kind of things, just come and ask us, and we'll give you the lowdown.
Yeah, we have a whole resource toolkit of just things people in the community have recommended on calls and to each other, and we're just keeping like a big catalog. So yeah, we know all the cool stuff.
So I have a final few questions for you both before we close out. And the intention with these is really to share off the top. So releasing any filtration and just sharing what comes through.
That's terrifying. Let's do it.
We'll keep it simple to start. Who is your greatest influence and why?
Oh, fuck, that's hard. My greatest influence, it's going to be a lame answer, but community, like everyone I interact with. I've always considered myself a very strong, active listener. Like whenever I'm talking to someone, I'm looking them in the eye and listening to what they're saying. And everything I hear influences me, some for the better, some for the worse. But it creates businesses and organizations and spurs my projects and creative ideas. So like everything and everyone is an inspiration to me.
I love that.
What he said.
I think my biggest inspiration has changed over the years. But I would have to say that, gosh, yeah, I mean, like, yeah, really everybody, but I'll pencil it down. I'm going to say my mom is my biggest inspiration right now in this moment.
Nice and refreshing. Cool. Well, my next question is there a psychedelic substance that you're wanting to explore but haven't yet?
Great question. So ibogaine, iboga, is known to have contraindications with heart conditions. And I had open heart surgery when I was 5. I was born with a congenital heart condition. And I appreciate your because that's the response that I get usually. And I think with anything like that, that's the response we all give. And somehow I'm grateful. I don't have any negative memories associated with no conscious trauma from that experience of having open heart surgery when I was 5. Only good ones. I got Pokemon for Game Boy from my friend before I went in. I was like, let's go. So it's always felt like inauthentic to me to like play into that part of my story. And then I had a different plant medicine ceremony, Wachuma San Pedro, on Friday night. And it was facilitated by someone very special, lives in Santa Clarita. If anyone's looking for a facilitator, let me know, maybe for the exchange. And during that experience, this topic came up, and she's like, you know, another way of looking at it is they weren't like fixing a heart defect. They were giving you more heart. They were supercharging you to, you know, go out into this life. And I showed her the scar, and it's an exclamation point on me from where the tube was, I guess, to give me food, and then like where they did the surgery. So I'm like, so working with her in the ceremony, I realized like I don't just have a heart, I have a heart with an exclamation point. And it's just like a totally new way of looking at it. It feels authentic to the experience I had with the surgery. And yeah, that came about from that experience with plant medicine. So not a direct answer, but it felt compelled to share based on that.
I will say peyote. It's something that I've been feeling very called to, and also, you know, it's more traditional to what's called Northern America, and something that I haven't had the opportunity to sit with, and they call that the grandfather of all plants and plant medicines, whereas ayahuasca, the grandmother. So peyote.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if you could explore a psychedelic with anyone, dead or alive, what would the psychedelic be, and with who?
From my empathic community, my friend Brittany, her parents, Craig and Janice, and their other siblings, I'm blanking on the name right now, but they have done mushrooms together as a family, and that sounds like the most bonding experience that could possibly happen. And like, what better way to like relate to the people that I love than that experience. So text my parents, tell them to get on it. Together. Yeah.
I can attest to the psilocybin being such a great experience with a parent. I got to do that with my mom in the Yucatan a few years ago, and it was one of my most favorite experiences and weeks of my life for sure. But I would say ayahuasca with the circle of my mom, my dad, my brothers, my sister, Yeshua, or also known as Jesus, Buddha, Patanjali, who else? Babaji, and also some really cool animals like the California condor, a bison, golden eagle, and probably an elk as well. So yeah, sitting in circle with them, facilitated by my dear brother and one of my mentors, Dennis.
That's a great visual.
In a teepee, and also underneath the stars, full moon. one of these
That could
days.
be done. That could happen.
Would be epic. That would be epic.
This will be our last question for the night. I'm like going back and forth between two. To the most concise ability that is available to you, will you please define the nature of consciousness? It can be as short as one word.
Love.
Unconditional love.
It's not a test. I'm not looking for the answer, but that is the right answer. Yeah, I think it's just a reflection of what's been found. Cool. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us at the District
you.
House. This has been a really sweet one.
pleasure.
I've really appreciated it. And do you want to shout out yourselves for any one-on-one work in addition to the community?
Yeah, I mean, just come chat with me after. I teach at a few studios in Los Angeles in person, different styles of yoga, as well as I also do a class called Cannabis once a month where we create ceremony around cannabis and then go into a really, really cush, pun intended, yin and restorative yoga session. It's one of my most favorite classes to teach. I also teach on a yoga and meditation and some breath work on another app called Inner Dimension TV. And that's kind of like the Netflix of yoga and meditation. It's a really, really incredible platform with the two teachers that I studied with who started that and created that. And that's accessible on all platforms, through your phone, through tablets, laptops, all of that stuff. Also teach on another meditation app called Sitta1, and these are, again, if you have questions, just come chat with me afterwards. And then I've been doing private sessions for 10 years now too, so through FaceTime as well. So I think that's about it. And then obviously slow the F down. I'm not going to curse because my mom's in the room, but slow the F down. We want to drop in once a month with us too. So.
Cool.
Just help me figure out if my New Yorker caption contest submissions are funny or not. So usually if I have a few creative ones, I'll post them on Instagram and I'll get some feedback on people on which one they think is funnier. So I'm always looking for votes to help me pick the right one because I'm trying to win 3 times. And I heard the record is 8. Someone claims to have 8. And I want it. I want that record. So yeah, help me be funnier. Yeah, I gotta tell you, he won it over like 10 plus years. So I won both in the last year. So I was like, I got the trajectory down. Yeah, yeah, that's it for me. I have a business card I can give that has like everything I've ever talked about tonight, all on it on one thing. So
Sweet. Well, thank you, District216 community, for coming out. Come through on Saturday night for the fish cover show. Check that out on the website or talk to Jacob about it. Otherwise, come back again for the District House next Wednesday. I won't be there, but Fernando will be, and I'll see you the following week. Okay, good night, everyone.